sat there and I actually felt okay with quitting. No more grinding, no more content, just a regular job, a salary, something safe that would make my family proud. And the moment that I felt okay with that, I panicked because that's not who I am. I always knew deep down what I wanted. I was just too afraid to act. And this is for the girl who had her momentum and then lost it overnight. So a few weeks ago, strep throat took me completely out. I was bedridden. My HRV was at a 14 and I couldn't do anything. I knew I needed rest and that was okay. I gave myself grace. Something that I don't really hear people talk about, especially when they get sick, is what comes after the fact that you get sick. How you actually bounce back from being in that space. I recovered physically, but mentally, it was just something that I wasn't able to shake off. I couldn't seem to bounce back. I didn't understand why. I would lay in bed way longer than I needed to. I would doom scroll, thinking that I was being productive by the content that I was watching, but the reality is that I knew that I had to get up and get things done. My laundry was piling up. I was eating out. I was sleeping late. I was skipping meals. I just felt like a completely different person from where I started. I couldn't even get myself dressed. And the worst part was that I'm the kind of person who has these high expectations for herself. So every time I couldn't meet my own expectations, my self-trust just became to deteriorate. I would say I would do something, and then that chain would just keep me down, and I just couldn't. The deeper I went into that hole, the harder it was to climb out. I went from somebody whose momentum was finally compounding, where I finally saw myself really putting in the work, to someone who couldn't even make her bed. And that is what essentially brought me here to the kitchen table. I was so low that my brain started to rationalize a completely different life. A life that stepped away from what I wanted deep down. I was like, maybe I should just do something that didn't require me to keep reaching, something that I wasn't afraid to do in a good way, and just be average. I know that this is what happens in your late 20s. It feels like time is running out for you to be successful, and that pressure was sitting on me so heavy. But then something happened. As I was already having that scenario in my mind where I was just at a miserable job that I didn't actually like, I started to have this little voice in me. I was like, no, that is not me. That is not what I essentially want for my life. There's no way. And this moment, it made me think about the story of the mustard seed when Jesus said, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, that you can essentially move mountains. Faith is the biggest determinant. And that thought, that voice that I heard that felt really small, that was my mustard seed moment. It was just something that I really resonated with and connected with, and I knew that I had to keep going. Now, what I realized during those 4 weeks was that I wasn't a failure. I was in like a slow, growing, reflective season. And the biggest win from coming out of that wasn't getting my routine back, it was getting closer to God. And that's the biggest win that I could have ever received. I'll go through that low point a million times if it means that I get to be at this point with the connection that I have with God. And now I have a foundation. I know that He's working through me and that I can be a vessel for the gifts that He's given me. Not to prove something, but to give something. It's not about me anymore. It's not about the riches. It's not about the status. It's about making this world, this place, a little better than I found it. Even if that dent that I make is one step out of millions that it requires for this world to be a better place. And when you release an outcome like that, you really have nothing to lose. You only have everything to give. You only have your actions to provide, because you step outside of yourself and you become one with that version of yourself who serves, who seeks to comfort, to love, to provide, to just pour into people instead of wanting the opposite and searching for something to fill that void. First, I realized that I have a mental garden. You're either watering the thoughts that move you forward or you're letting the weeds grow. And the sleeping in, the scrolling, the skipping meals, and just eating late, all of the bad habits that prevent us from being the most ideal version of ourselves. Those were the weeds, and I was watering them every day. I was feeding those neural circuits and strengthening them every time that I took those kinds of actions. And so what I did was I started practicing conscious awareness. I began to observe my thoughts instead of drowning in them, and I would catch the spiral before it took me under. I essentially created a list. After observing the thoughts that I had, recognizing the bad habits that I was falling into and strengthening in my mind, I decided to create a list. And this list was filled with all of the things that I wanted to get done that day, all of the things that represented what my previous version, when it seemed like she had it all together, what she did. And then I even added a few ambitious things that I hope to eventually get to. For now, I have this list, and every single day I look at it and I just check things off. Some days it's, oh, I really did all of that. But other days I'm just like, I only did a few, and that's okay. It's not like an all or nothing list. And it's essentially there to have a compass of where I'm going and a sense of direction of what I want my life to look like. And some days I check all the boxes and some days I don't. But either way, every single day is a new start and a new opportunity to get those things done. And I realized that I just needed to reframe my habits, what I was looking to do for myself. I just focused on the action because I made a decision that if I'm going to fail, I'm not going to fail lying down doom scrolling on my phone. I'm going to fail by trying, by reiterating, by doing all of the things that I could possibly do before I truly decide that I'm quitting. After taking every action, doing every strategy I could, and done everything in my power, that is the only way that you can fail, is by following the plan and not the mood. I was reading Proverbs 16 today, verse 17, and it says that the path of the upright avoids misfortune. He who pays attention to his way safeguards his life. And verse 20, he who plans a thing will be successful. Happy is he who trusts in the Lord. Here's what that means to me practically. Having a plan and trusting God, those aren't opposites. The discipline is the faith. I am not at my peak right now, and I'm not going to act like I'm at my peak, but I'm back, I'm here, and that seed of faith is getting bigger every day. If you're at that place right now where you feel almost convinced to quit, I hope this hit home for you, because you don't need a full comeback yet. You just need the tiniest amount of faith. Comment down below the word mustard so I know that you got this far into the video. I have these 2 videos that are all about shifting your identity, getting back on track, and taking the steps to reach that full comeback season.